In the heart of Aleppo, the guns roared once again. Smoke over the skyline, families fleeing through shattered streets. And as dawn broke on October 7th, silence. A ceasefire, fragile but vital, between the Syrian army and the US-backed SDF. A truce that may decide whether Syria heals or unravels once more. The Syrian army and the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, or the SDF, have reached a ceasefire in 2 districts of Aleppo city, following a surge in violence that left several people dead and forced dozens of families to flee. Syria's state-run news agency SANA reported on October 7th that the truce was reached after 1 Syrian security officer was killed, and several others were injured during clashes between the 2 sides. The Defence Ministry confirmed on October 6th that the army had redeployed along several front lines with the Kurdish-led SDF in northeast Syria, describing the move as a precautionary measure rather than preparation for military action. The ministry said the deployment aimed to prevent repeated attacks and attempts by the SDF to seize new territory. Witnesses said the army sealed off the Sheikh Maqsoud and Al-Ashrafieh neighbourhoods, both under SDF control, prompting protests by residents. Sporadic exchanges of fire were reported on the outskirts of the 2 districts, with rockets fired from inside Kurdish-held areas hitting nearby residential zones. A security source told Reuters that 1 security officer was killed in an attack on a checkpoint, while Kurdish fighters claimed they had repelled an assault by government forces. Residents said dozens of families were fleeing the area amid heavy gunfire and mortar fire. SDF spokesperson Farhad Shami accused pro-government factions of attempting to storm Kurdish-held districts with tanks.
The government's actions are a dangerous escalation that worsens the plight of local residents. We urge Damascus to lift the siege and honor the terms of our agreement.
The SDF denied targeting any Syrian army positions, saying it had no forces stationed inside the contested districts. The group also accused government-aligned units of violating a landmark deal reached in March that sought to integrate the SDF into Syria's national institutions following the ousting of former President Bashar al-Assad. October 6th night saw some of the fiercest clashes in months, with heavy exchanges of gunfire and shelling across Aleppo's northern districts. Al Arabiya reported that the Syrian Defence Ministry reaffirmed its commitment to the March 10th agreement with the SDF, stating that the army's movements were part of a redeployment plan.
We are committed to our agreement with the Syrian Democratic Forces and have no intention to carry out any military operations.
Video footage from Al Arabiya showed intense fighting in Aleppo's Kurdish-held areas. The network reported that the SDF blamed the escalation on provocations by factions of the interim government and their attempts to advance with tanks. The SDF has been a key partner in Washington's campaign against the Islamic State in Syria and Iraq. Following Assad's fall in December 2024, the United States helped broker a power-sharing arrangement between the SDF and the new Islamist-led government in Damascus. The deal envisioned the integration of Kurdish civil and military structures into the Syrian state by the end of 2025. On October 6th, US Syria envoy Tom Barrack and CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper met with SDF leader General Mazloum Abdi and senior officials in northeastern Syria. Abdi later said on social media that the Kurds remain committed to national unity.
We are steadfast in our goal of one united Syria for all Syrians.
The meeting came as Washington pressed both Damascus and the Kurds to speed up implementation of the March agreement. Turkey, meanwhile, has warned it could launch new military operations if the SDF fails to integrate into Syria's state apparatus. The Syrian Defence Ministry accused the SDF of violating the deal by attempting to capture new positions and villages in the country's north and northeast. Kurdish fighters, however, claimed they were responding to unprovoked attacks by government forces. Local reports indicated that mosques in Aleppo urged residents to remain indoors as gunfire and shelling continued late into the night. As the ceasefire takes hold, international observers warn that Syria's fragile post-war transition is under severe strain. 14 years of conflict have left the country divided, and the slow pace of reform since Assad's fall has deepened mistrust among ethnic and sectarian groups. UN Special Envoy for Syria, Geir Pedersen, told the Financial Times that the situation was dangerously unstable and required urgent political correction.
It is on the knife edge, that's how serious it is. We all know these kinds of changes take time, but President Al-Sharaa needs to do what I call a course correction.
President Ahmed Al-Sharaa, who led the coalition that toppled Assad's regime, has pledged to unify the country under a single civilian authority. However, escalating sectarian clashes, especially in Kurdish and Arab-populated areas, have cast doubt on his ability to maintain control. Envoy Pedersen warned that Syria could face the same fate as Libya if the transition falters.
In a worst-case scenario, Syria could turn into Libya. No one wants it to happen, but it's a real danger.
The United Nations has expressed concern over reports of human rights violations by both SDF units and pro-government militias. Meanwhile, Israel's recent airstrikes on Syrian military installations near the southern border have further complicated matters, with Tel Aviv claiming the operations were in defense of the Druze minority. The Syrian parliament elections held on October 5th, though largely symbolic, were seen as a test of Sharaa's commitment to representative governance. Yet, the renewed bloodshed in Aleppo has overshadowed those efforts and raised doubts about the sustainability of peace.
A lot of people are telling me the violence shows he can't control his own people, and they are asking me what kind of message does that send?
The international community remains cautious. Washington continues to back Kurdish participation in the new Syria, while Russia and Iran, longtime allies of Damascus, are urging restraint. For now, the guns in Aleppo have fallen silent. But as Syria's new government struggles to consolidate power, the uneasy truce between the army and the SDF stands as both a sign of fragile progress and a warning of just how easily the country's hard-won peace could unravel.